Welcome back. I'd like to talk about some movies. So recently, I watched A Boy and His Dog, which I thought was a pretty interesting film. I liked the environment of it. I thought the characters were interesting to see what actions they'd take in this apocalyptic wasteland. I thought after watching it that it was very clear why there were controversies, but I saw a lot of just bizarre sort of critiques of the film, and it got me thinking about the topic of this video, which is literal versus meta morals in movies. I would like to say that I promised a commenter that I wouldn't, talk about edgy sort of subject matter because it might get me blacklisted or lose my channel. So before I say what I'm gonna say, sorry to him. But this video is about
I'm going to rape you!
The main character wants to rape women. Very interesting, but it was very clear why the character was the way he was. And I personally didn't think that if you thought about the movie properly, that it would imply that this is a good thing. Now this relates to the topic being literal versus meta morals, and what do I mean by that? The literal morals of a film being what is objectively in it, no sort of subtext or understanding around it, what is literally in the film. So this also includes things like film techniques or the music choices, because those very clearly imply certain sort of feelings to a scene. On a literal level, stuff like, I don't know, you watch some Marvel slop and the music swells all nice and it shows our characters in a hero pose. So on a literal level, it's showing these are good guys doing good things. That's the literal. The meta side of it would be understanding the context around the film, thinking about things that are hinted towards, but not directly shown in the film that help you understand the characters. For our first in-depth example, I'd like to use Starship Troopers.
I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say kill them all!
And I'd like to take from the Red Letter Media review and the fact that this is a literal fascist movie. What's literally shown on the screen never says that what's happening is bad, but you understand it in a meta context that is a very clear anti-fascist film. Let's look at some stuff that was literally shown. Dramatic sort of death scenes of how awful this, the things are happening to our main characters. Stuff like how at the end of the film, Neil Patrick Harris, when he goes up to that big bug and he puts his hand on it and he's like, "It's afraid!" Everyone starts cheering and the music's swelling. It's a big fucking shot of everyone. On a meta sense, you understand the irony in a bunch of stuff that's happening. Like the idea that it's heavily implied that the humans started this war, or the fact that you look at all of the adults and see what this fascist, militaristic government has led them towards, with all of them being horribly mutilated in some sort of way. Or maybe the fact that all of the actual sort of love connections die by the end of the film and it's just the vapid people left over. All of this is supposed to show a sort of comedy to the situation that's going on, and the fact that this is clearly a satire of it, but it never directly says that it's anti-fascist, so people who don't think about it in a meta context will just see it as a straight fascist film.
Hell, I didn't have to cut her. This could have been used 2 or 3 more times. War is hell.
That was basically Satire 101. It's a very easy film to understand the context for. Now, how it relates back to A Boy and His Dog is the fact that, yes, our main character, his main goal is to rape, which is, as we understand it, not good. And in the film, they never have any filming techniques that necessarily show him in a bad light. They don't really show him in too much of a good light or a bad light. It's just sort of bluntly shown what's happening. When he kills people, when he robs people, when he goes to try and rape that woman, it's just shown very bluntly for the most part. So literally, it's a film that supports robbing, raping, murder, cannibalism, all of that. But in a meta context, it's pretty clear to understand that it obviously doesn't support any of that, not even inadvertently. Not only do we understand outside of the film that all of these things are bad, but even in the film, there's a lot of implications as to why this is the way that it is. The fact that it's, very openly shown that, Vic did not have any sort of parental figure to guide him, to make any sort of moral sort of compass.
Well, then what are your mother's and father's names? Boy, are you a dumb broad.
Or the fact that the world that he inhabits is incredibly cruel and everyone around him also just does the same thing, which is, I want something, I'm just going to take it. So it's showing that the environment has molded Vic to act in all these awful, terrible ways. The point of the film isn't to explore why these morals are bad, because it should be understood by the audience at a base level that they are bad. The exploration in the film is the world and the characters and why they do these things. You understand that it's bad at a base level, but you want to understand, well, why are they acting this way? People are starving, they're thirsty, they're running low on all sorts of supplies, and they just do things. Not as necessarily a justification for just robbing and murdering and all that stuff, but it's very clear that all of the people that are growing up in this situation are just not going to have a moral compass. They've just been taught the best option is to just do whatever you feel like in the moment. So to have the film dedicate time to explaining why all this stuff is morally bad would just, take away from what the film's trying to do. It would waste time. It would either bloat it or cut out room that you would need for exploring the world around them. Do you seriously want a scene where he's about to rape a woman and he's like, hey, I may be about to rape this woman, but that's actually morally reprehensible, and you shouldn't do this. We understand that everything that's happening in the film is bad, not because our characters get some sort of comeuppance, or they use some film techniques to show how this is actually bad, but because we understand going in that these morals are already bad, and the point of the film is to show, hey, causing the apocalypse worldwide is actually not good, and we should avoid this, because here's what's going to happen. It's not a very deep story, but that is the very clear point of it.
If they just let you have your own way with a blushing bride that instead of hooking you up to a machine, you probably never come back up.
Listen, I've rambled on for long enough. I'm going to talk about the final line of the movie, because a lot of people mainly have a problem with this, and that kind of circles back to why they think the whole film is chauvinistic and sexist, because in the film they change the line from the book. Now, I don't read, but from what I remember, it was something to the effect of, do you know what love is? And then the boy's just thinking like, yeah, a boy loves his dog, or something like that. I understand that why people say this is a better line. I actually think it's a better line. It's a very subtle way to say he doesn't love anything, he just loves basically himself, because the dog is sort of, an extension of himself that just helps him get what he wants. He doesn't have any morals, any love, he just cares about what's going to get him what he wants. But the film line is also, pretty accurate for the whole movie.
Well, I'd say she certainly had marvelous judgment, Albert, if not particularly good taste.
And, of course, this is after they eat her. So it's a joke about how she tasted bad, but also about how it's a pun, you get it. So listen, I understand that seems a little off-putting. It's like, oh, well, these are like awful, terrible people, and they just murdered and then ate a woman, and now they're making jokes about it. That seems a little like, chauvinistic and sexist. And while I understand these are pretty strong contrasting feelings of going from killing and eating a woman to then making jokes about it, but if you understand the whole context of the film, the fact that this world sort of brings about people that will do just awful things and not have any care about it because they don't have a moral compass to begin with, the line is pretty accurate to the fact that these two don't give a fuck about anything, okay? To them, this is just what they had to do. They don't care. They have no morals to care about this. So of course they're gonna laugh off the fact that they killed and ate a woman. It means nothing to them other than the fact that they did it because they wanted to / had to. So no, I don't think that line is chauvinistic and sexist in a meta sense, but yes, in a literal sense, that line is chauvinistic and sexist. Because the characters are. But just because a film is literally saying something doesn't mean that on a meta level it's not implying that this is bad, or they just condemn it in some way, or maybe it's more complex and they have some feeling on some certain moral that's more complex than this is bad or this is good. So yeah, think about movies a little more deeply. That's it.